Welcome to section 5.6. In this video, we are going to learn how to translate expressions or verbal expressions into mathematical expressions or equations. And let's first talk about some terminology here. So as you have noticed, I'm sure you have seen the word sum, difference, product, and quotient multiple times throughout this course so far. And I did this on purpose. So then that way, when you encountered this section here, this would become a lot more natural and easier to you. And then we also have raised to, which just means an exponent or power. And then whenever you see is in a verbal expression, that means equal to. Or in other words, that indicates to you that you should have an equals sign. So with that being said, let's translate these following verbal expressions. And then once we do that, we're going to evaluate or find the value of the expression. So for example 1, we have the sum of 5 and 7. So as we've seen above, if sum is a foreign word to you, that means we're going to add. So I'm going to just put this plus up here. And then we have the numbers 5 and 7. So we're gonna do 5 and then add 7. So this is the translation. So I'm just gonna box that. That's what this means here in words. So if you were to say this out loud, a lot of times we just say 5 plus 7. But you can also hear this, or you can also say this out loud as the sum of 5 and 7. Now, to evaluate this, we're just going to add 5 and 7. And 5 plus 7 is just 13. Oops, sorry. That's just 12. Now, looking at example 2, I encourage you to pause the video and try it on your own. And assuming you have worked through it, let's go through it together. So the translation. That is, so in order to do that first, let's actually read the problem. So we have the difference of 17 and 16. Now as you see above here, difference means to subtract. So I'm going to say difference, we have subtraction, and then we have 17 and 16. So we're going to take 17 and subtract 17 from 16. And that's our translation. And 17 minus 16 is just 1. Now we have the quotient of 16 and 4. Now quotient means to divide. So we're just going to take 16 and then divide that by our 4. So this is our translation. Let's box this up. That's what this verbal expression means. And 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now we have a little bit of a longer expression, but let's go through it. So we have the product of 5 and 3 is the sum of 7 and 8. And if you haven't yet, I encourage you to pause the video, and assuming you have worked through it, let's go through it. So we have the product. The product means multiplication. So I'm just going to put an X here. Actually, let me do a different color because that's a little bit of a bright blue. So I'm going to do green because I like green. And then the sum. Let's do this gray here. So we have the product of 5 and 3. Oh, and then we also have is. So this is here. Let's add a color. Let's do this dark blue instead. So this is means equals. So let's translate this. So we have the product of 5 and 3. So we're going to do 5 times 3. And then we have is here, which means equals the sum of 5 and 7. Or the sum of 7 and 8, sorry. So we have 7, and we're going to add that to 8. And that is our translation. And then now if we evaluate this, 5 times 3 is 15. And then we're going to put that equals, and 7 plus 8 is also 15. So 15 does actually equal 15. So this makes sense. And looking at example 5, we have 4 to the power of 2 is the product of 4 and 4. So I encourage you to pause the video and let's work through it together if you have gotten an answer. So we have 4 to the power of 2. So let's just think about that first. 4 to the power of 2. So that as an expression, here, let me write translation, or trans. The translation, okay. So we have 4 to the power of 2. So we're going to take 4 and raise it to the power of 2. We're going to have 4 squared. As we've seen, is means equals. And then the product means multiplication. And we have 4 and 4. So we just have 4 times 4. And there you go. That is our translation. Uh-oh. And then when we evaluate this, 4 squared is just 4 times 4, which is 16. And 4 times 4 is 16. There you go. Now, looking at our second type of examples, we are going to be doing the same exact thing. We're going to translate everything, but instead of all numbers, we just will have variables now. So the product of 6 and x. So as we've seen, the product means multiplication, and we have 6 and x, so this is just 6 times x. That's our answer. And we have 23 decreased by x. So in this case, this is a little confusing at first. But essentially, we are starting out with an initial value, or starting value of 23, and then decreased by x. That means we're going to be subtracting by x. And that is our answer. And then for 3, we have the quotient of t, and 8 is 8. Now we've seen before that quotient means division. And we're going to divide t and 8. So we have t divided by 8. And we've seen that is means equals. We're going to write this equal sign. And then we have is 8. And that is that translation. Then we have n times 8 is equal to 19. So if we multiply 8 and n, we just have n times 8. And then is, or we have is equal to, so we already have the verbal thing of equal. And then 19. If you haven't yet worked through any problems, I encourage you to try 5, 6, and 7 on your own before we work through it together. And assuming you have worked through it, let's work through it. So we have example 5, which is the 8th power of n is equal to 19. So let's first break this part up. So we have the 8th power of n. So what we're going to do, what this means is we're going to take n and raise it to the 8th power. So 8th power of n, then we have is, which is equals, and then it's equal to 19. as our answer for this one. And then for example 6, we have z cubed is equal to 45. So z cubed, whenever I say cubed, that means, because you'll encounter cubed a lot. So if you don't know what cubed means, that means raised to the third power. So since we know z is raised to the third power, let's write that out. So z cubed, and then we have is equal to, and then we have is equal to 45. So z cubed is equal to 45. And last but not least, example 7. 1 less than w is equal to 2. So let's first start off by writing out the expression 1 less than w. So to find out what 1 less than w is, we're going to take w and we're going to subtract it by 1. So because this is w, so we're going to take whatever w is and we're going to subtract it by 1 to find out what 1 less than w is. And then we say is equal to 2. And that is our answer. Thank you. And I can't wait to see you for the next video.